Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me here. We're going to talk today about timelessness and some ideas that are timeless. They're simple ideas, and we're apt to completely run from the simple ideas. We're apt to disbelieve them and think that can't possibly be. It's gotta be more complicated than that, and run off and do our thing. So if you're simply tuning in, you might wonder and very well wonder, what am I actually even talking about? Well, in A Course in Miracles, there are a handful of very simple and very basic ideas that are repeated over and over again in hundreds of different ways. You'll notice that the bound editions of this course in print are well over 1,000 pages in length. And when you put together the text, the workbook for students, the manual for teachers, the clarification of terms, and the two supplements to the course, that is certainly well over 1,000 printed pages, and the print is rather small. So it looks like this course has a lot to say, but as with all spiritual traditions, the ideas themselves, the core ideas, are relatively few, and they're restated for our benefit, for our learning benefit in different ways, so that they land with us differently on a different day. And if you've been through this material more than once, and many of you have, you'll know that your understanding of the material the second time around, or the 500th time around, is going to be vastly different than the first time you encounter it. So, in our conversation today about timelessness, time does not exist. Neither does space, neither does the world or the human body or anything that we cling to and believe constitutes us here in the world. This may sound fantastic and improbable and wrong and crazy and insane and certifiable. Well, if that's what you think, that's absolutely not a problem. I invite you, I invite each and every one of you to really consider what has brought you to this point. Spirituality is about self inquiry, and this is an important piece of self examination, particularly in those moments of doubts, which we all experience. We all do. We've all opened up this text or read this material online or listened to a talking head online, a pixelated image on your screen talking about the ideas and the meaning of this and all of that, and thought, I don't know about that. I don't freaking know about that. What? Right. That's perfectly normal. I mean, we're conditioned, all of us, through absolutely no fault of our own. It's simply where we appear to find ourselves. We've been conditioned to believe that we're Homo sapiens sapiens, an individual, emphasis on individual, human body that appears to be in rapt competition with other human bodies for scarce and what we deem to be highly limited resources. And we appear to live in a world that's governed by the conventions of space and time and, well, Newtonian physics, physical laws and here in the world, yeah, those obtain, sure. The world itself is a dream. Jesus tells us here in the text of A Course in Miracles very clearly that the central teaching of this course is there is no world. We're perfectly at home in God. This exile, this spinning ball of rock, this heavily, heavily constrained and limited communication device that does not last and it's constantly changing is a dream. And we all know that. So, what has you on the spiritual path to begin with? What I can say for sure, and it doesn't make any difference how this has played out or looked in your life, you have heard the call of our inner teacher to awaken, and you have answered it. So, for that, I profoundly thank you, and so does every other living thing. This call to awaken, to return home, to set aside all of our illusions goes out to us all of the time. It is a 24/7 proposition. The question is, are you listening? Who's listening? And at some point, you have been listening, and it does not make any difference where you were or what your station in life was or is at the time. It makes absolutely no difference. It doesn't even matter if you were consciously aware of it at the time. You formulated some thought along the lines of, there's got to be more to it than this. Of course, there is, and we all know it. So, what's standing in our way of that? Well, our continued adherence to this false illusion of self, this separate sense of self that appears to be separate. We appear to be separate from our brother. There appear to be 8 billion of us, plus the countless other life forms with which we share this spinning ball of illusion. There appears to be a great multiplicity, when in truth there is only perfect oneness. Individuality is a simple mistake. It's an illusion to be set aside. And time, this idea of time, is made to take the place of timelessness, of eternity. What's eternal simply is. It's eternal. It's outside of the idea, the convention of time. It simply is. Truth simply is. God simply is. Love simply is. We're the extension of God, the Son of God, the Christ, which, by the way, refers to every single living thing, not just the historical Jesus. The Son of God is the extension of God Himself, the thought of God. Like extends like. God's the creator, we're the created. He has extended Himself. Some part of us recognizes and knows this. And my hope is that you'll never be able to get that out of your mind again. Ideas leave not their source. Capital S, please. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. We're perfectly at home in God, and this is a dream. Now, A Course in Miracles is certainly not the only spiritual tradition to posit that this is a dream. If you're familiar with Buddhism or Eastern philosophy, that is simply one example of a series of traditions that invites us to contemplate the dreamlike nature of what passes for existence. So, yes, let's contemplate that, shall we? Time is a separation device. So too is space. We appear to be separate from our brothers in both space and time. We appear to be in different rooms of a building. We appear to be in different buildings, in different states or territories or provinces, in different nation states, different continents. We appear to be separate from our brother in space. We also appear to be separate from our brother in time. There are people, loved ones, for example, friends and family members that have gone before us and have passed away. There are those who have not yet been born, so it appears. We appear to be separate from our brother in time, past and future, these ideas that we hold so dear. And even right here in the present moment, we divide based on what we call time zones. We've sliced this illusory spinning ball of rock into 15-degree wedges, which we've then manipulated to look rather uneven. These 15 degrees of longitude wedges that we call time zones. So it's a different time in Arizona as it is in New York or London or Tokyo or somewhere else in the world. We appear to be separate. We look about and we see separation everywhere, including space and time. We call time a great mystery, a great enigma. It is neither a mystery nor an enigma. It is nothing. There is only perfect oneness, and it is eternal, outside of time. So, one obstacle that we see quite a lot as a practical matter when people study A Course in Miracles is this need to figure out with the intellectual thinking mind when this separation appeared to take place. When did this occur? When did I actually decide that I wanted to be other than I was? When did we decide that we wanted to be something other than what we are? The Christ, one with God. When did we decide to be other than that? And we attempt with our highly limited conventions of space and time and what we call logic to figure it out with the intellectual thinking mind. And it doesn't work. Plenty of people have really struggled with this. Is it not enough to simply accept that this is a dream? That's what Jesus tells us. That's what the Holy Spirit tells us. Is that not enough? All of spirituality involves our learning to relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher. Call your inner teacher whatever you want. So, is it not enough to relax and trust his guidance, its guidance? Mm. The intellectual thinking mind can help us in many ways in the world. And I count myself among the many who have absolutely prostrated to this incisive, rational thinking mind. I have a doctorate degree. Some of you do too. And you don't have to have any degree in order to be conditioned to try to figure all of this out with the intellect. It's not possible. With the intellect, we can grasp simple concepts such as this is a dream. There is only perfect oneness. God is simple concepts. The intellectual, rational thinking mind takes that and rejects it. That's part of the problem, so it appears here. It rejects the notion that time is an illusion. And using the idea, the convention of time, it tries to pinpoint when exactly the separation took place. Did not. It did not take place. The separation never occurred. That's an idea that runs throughout A Course in Miracles. Is it not enough for us to simply accept that? The separation never took place. There is, therefore, no separation of any kind. The intellectual thinking mind can appreciate that, yet we think it's got to be more complicated than that, and so we run off, and the intellect is like a scalpel. It's like a very sharp razor blade or obsidian blade that slices and dices what we call life into multiple component parts. It analyzes always from the false premise of one piece as opposed to another. No, there are no separate pieces. So people rail against this idea, and perhaps you're railing against it right now. So, not a problem if you are. That's part of why this course repeats the same ideas over and over. So, of course, we find here as adults on the spiritual path that the common societal attitude of that's so yesterday. I've seen this already. I'm bored. Got anything new? Yeah, we can readily see that that doesn't help us. So, the intellectual thinking mind is limited. It's limited by the way it operates, pitting one component of reality against another. There are no components of reality. Truth simply is. It's one, it's whole, it's complete. So, when did the separation occur? It didn't. It never did. Remember, this is a dream. And this is why we call enlightenment awakening. How do we do it? Bring all of our illusions to the truth. Bring the ego to God. They're incompatible. And one cannot stand in the light of another because his untruth is revealed in light. It is not attacked, it simply vanishes. There's no need to attack or rail against the ego. In fact, forgive it. Ever tried that? Yeah, do that. I invite you to. It's nothing. Bring it, bring it to truth. Let the light of truth shine it away. It can't stand in the presence of truth because truth is true, illusion is illusion. So the visual image of light is very helpful for us here as learners on the path. What happens to darkness in the presence of light? It's gone. It simply vanishes. Light doesn't have to clobber it or overcome it with a sword or a gun or laser guided bombs or guile or extraordinary intellect or anything like that. It simply shines. Light simply shines the darkness away. Darkness cannot abide it. It can't stand because its untruth is clearly seen. That's all. And we discover along the way that reality is changeless. Anything that changes or shifts in any way is not of God. Therefore, it is illusion. Reality is changeless, perfect and changeless. It's eternal, after all. So, questions inevitably arise. I mean, that is to be expected. This course, a self study curriculum that happily is neither a religion nor a cult or anything like that. There is no supreme leader to whom we're invited to donate all of our property and stuff. Not at all. Happily. That's indeed the genius of this is that it is self-study. Anyone can encounter it at any point in time. And anyone can learn under the guidance of our inner teacher because our inner teacher is part of us. The Holy Spirit is not separate from you. The Holy Spirit is part of our mind, that part of our mind that will show us what to do, to say, that will help us and guide us to awakening if only we let him. So let him. What we find here in the world is that there appear, of course, to be 8 billion of us, and plenty of people are not interested in spirituality at all, much less this course that, well, cuts right to the chase, as we say. This is a dream. God is the only reality. There aren't very many spiritual traditions that simply come right out and state that. Yet something has drawn you to this. Very interesting, huh? Very cool. It is. Questions are bound to arise as we let go of our fanatical attachment to the rational intellect that tells us this can't possibly be true. But it is. See, as we've gone off and dreamed a painful dream, truth remains constant. It has never changed just because we've refused to see it. If you take a nap in the afternoon and the sun's still shining, it's still shining while your eyes are closed. It hasn't gone anywhere. Truth doesn't go anywhere, it simply is. It's eternal. It's outside this idea of time. It's timeless, completely timeless. So if you have questions, I'm more than willing to answer those. It is a part of the spiritual path for doubts to arise, for aha moments to come up, and we don't know when that's actually going to happen. Could be right now. So anything that you would like to ask is certainly welcome here. This is intended to be a safe space for dialogue about spirituality in general, or specifically about A Course in Miracles. And if you have not yet subscribed, I invite you to do that. Please go ahead and subscribe by clicking this button here in the corner of your screen. You'll be prompted to join us. So do that. Several videos appear each week. And well, these ideas are disarmingly simple, they're practical, and this is a self study curriculum that we learn by doing. So the more we can accept these ideas, the better. All right. So thank you, as always, for joining me.